All right. So it's Tribal People of Turtle Island Day. So I got a little bit of, you know, Indian stuff in my family. And, it's always been talked about that my grandfather was a half breed and my great grandmother was not Anishinaabe but Anishinaabe. And so, I thought that most of my life. We didn't ever make a big deal about it. And, I never pursued um, any to try to have any tribal affiliation or anything like that. I wouldn't even know what band. I know at Potawatomi there's probably I know there's about 7 or 8 bands of Potawatomi. And after the move from when good old Andy Jackson and whoever that was moved all the um, tribal people from east of the Mississippi to west of the Mississippi when the Trail of Tears all happened, and then it wasn't just the Cherokees. I mean, people think it was just the Cherokees, and it was over quite a period of time. There was it was winter, summer, and fall, and I think it went on for a couple of years actually. I mean, you can't move that many people in one fell swoop. So anyway, the Potawatomi people were moved during that time. All the There was a couple. If you had like an established farm, and basically if you kind of turned into a webman and you and you had a little of your own property and stuff like that, people didn't fuck with you. They were just pretty much after the old ways. The people that were still dressing in traditional clothing and things like that. So my grandmother told me this story, and it's not a very happy story. And then I looked it up. I read about it, and it turns out it was 100% true. Historical facts, but when they were running the tribal folk, towards Potawatomis ended up scattered, and they made it. A couple of the tribes made it to Oklahoma, and then there's another little reservation down in I think it borders in Iowa and Kansas. It's right on the border. Potawatomi River's down there, and they had some rebellions and stuff in the 1800s down there as well. But in any case, um, the Citizens Potawatomi band made it all the way to Oklahoma, and I visited their site and their heritage thing. And you know, um, Potawatomi people are funny. It's hard to find any full-blooded anymore. That's the difference between the East Coast tribes and the West Coast tribes. If you go out to New Mexico or Arizona, and you can run into full-blooded, you know, tribal folks. Navajo, Apache, you know, Pumas and Huachucas and things like that. But on the East Coast, pretty rare. I mean, pretty much most of the tribal blood is mixed. Can't they're just hanging around with the white people too long, and the people out west, the Lakota and the Ogallala, Lakota, Hunkpapa, all those guys, the Cheyenne, the Plains tribes, Paiutes. They kind of had their civilizations or their tribal things together even after that Oklahoma thing. All the main wars of that we see. Custer's Last Stand and all that bullshit. That happened like after the removal of indigenous folks to. I don't like using that word indigenous. Sorry, tribal folks. Oh, anyway, back to my little indigenous story, which isn't a fun one. And during the time that they call the Trail of Tears, which in my understanding of it is not that the indigenous or the tribal people that were trying to get to where they were getting were crying, but the people that saw them passing through, because they marched them through these towns and shit, and people would come out. I'm sure there were some bigoted assholes that didn't give a shit, but there were some people with some compassion and some heart. White people, they didn't stop it, but they came out, saw it, and they cried. It made them cry. So, Trail of Tears. Now, in the Potawatomi version of that, it's called the Trail of Death. So, what happened, and I'm not sure if this was the Citizens or the Prairie or the Forest Band or there's another band, the St. Anna's Band, whatever. And just to preface, before they were, they had spent many, even like 100 years or so, trading with the French, and of course there were other solo Europeans, but they ran into the black robes back in the 1600s when black robes came up. St. Lawrence Seaway all the way up into Michigan, Lake Michigan. That's where they're all from. That's Ojibwe land, all around that. The Ottawas and the Miamis and the Kickapoos. So anyway, the black robe priests had converted really a lot of indigenous people, at least partially, into Christianity. So they got removed. So here's a band, mainly, of course, old men, women, children, any able-bodied. Oops. Any able-bodied young brave was, out fighting for the cause or doing whatever, or hauling ass down to Mexico, or probably shooting up to Canada, So this was a group of mainly just children, mothers, and old men. So, they'd been on the road, I don't know how long. I think this happened in Kansas. It might have happened down near the Kansas-Iowa border. So they came along, and it was a Sunday, and of course they were made to march. And this is, the American cavalry or army that's, guarding them and forcing them along the road back down. Get on down there to Oklahoma or Kansas. I don't know where they're taking them. So a group of about 125 of them decided they wanted to go to church. They came up on a Catholic church. And apparently one of the churchy guys, padres, came out, and he was all, invite him in, and the police, the army guard said, no, can't do it, gotta go, let's go. So the older people, a lot of them who did not speak English, by the way, started going into the church. And then the guards went in and run, and they just didn't understand. They kept going in, and the thing broke out. So the guards just started shooting. And when it was over, they had killed 125 women and children and old men. They never made it to Oklahoma. So, anyway, it's not a very happy indigenous story, but or a tribal story, but that's the kind of stuff that probably not too many Americans know, which is surprising to me because, but then I've spent a lot of time, studying mainly the Great Lakes Indians. I mean, there's enough already on, Lakotas and, Russell Means all over the place. And, and the Pueblos. My wife and I spent a lot of time up around Taos. We don't go there too much anymore because it's a little too yuppified for us. But those Pueblo Indians are something else up there. There's about 3 or 4, 5 tribes in that area, and then there's out the way out in the desert. There's Santa Cruz, I think. I don't know where Deb Holland is, from which tribe she's from, but she's from in that area. Anyway, that's enough. That's all I know. Happy Tribal Peoples Day of Turtle Island, because that's what it should be. Fuck Christopher Columbus. Or fuck all those assholes. I'm actually probably mainly white, but I believe firmly that the tribal cultures of North America, or the tribal of Turtle Island, are the true arbiters of what's going on around here. They're the true people that have the knowledge of how we should be treating, our mother, the earth. And I think if the United States and Canada and even Mexico was smart enough, we would put them in charge of a whole lot of things that have to do with the environment, like keeping our water clean, and keeping our air clean, and making sure that the forests are managed properly, because we do a crappy job of that. And they should be in charge of our logging industry and our fisheries. And if they were, we would probably be living as Americans in so much more abundance than we're living in now. So I vote for the tribal folks of North America to get rid of all the colonial bullshit, fix Mother Earth, and make our country great again. Like it was about 600 fucking years ago. Adios. Buenos dias.